Greetings and salutations, my friends. Today, I just want to make a quick video to discuss one of the trickier things that is in Football Manager. It's kind of out of your hands a lot of the time. And that is joining a club or being at a club where it has massive financial problems, right? I'm using, funnily enough, I'm using my Monza save as the example because it's terrible. And I want to just give you a few tips as to what you can do to help it. And one little gem that I think is just the key to everything, all right? So the problem is that most football teams, generally speaking, run at a loss. So unless you're one of the big boys in the top leagues, you don't have to worry about it so much. But when most of these, mid-table teams and then lower division teams run at a considerable loss, you'll notice, I'm sure many of you play at clubs where the board constantly have to inject money, and that is essentially a made-up thing from football. Like, it happens in real life, obviously, but also Football Manager just has that because they don't want real-life clubs to go bust in Football Manager, which is sad, but I kind of get the PR's not great for their clubs and stuff. But I want to talk to you about a few things you can do. Let's say we've just joined this club. We're 1.8 mil in debt. The projection's bad. Let's say you have a bunch of loans and everything, and usually in the club vision, it'll have repair the club's financial damage. Ignore that. You're not a miracle worker or a billionaire, so that just kind of has to fix itself over the course. But there's certain things you can do. Now, first things is just general numbers of people, right? I tend to cull the entirety of any youth teams. Keep the one or two wonder kids. Put them in your first team, because they're going to be on small wages and they can go on the bench and fill in spots with minimal wages. But generally speaking, I try to get rid of all my youth team. If you're at a lower level, you don't want to force release contracts because you have to pay a chunk of money. So just transfer them, add them onto unwanted lists, sell them for any value sort of thing. Give them away. Just get them off the wages, okay? Of the under 20s, under 21s, under 18s and stuff like that. Just keep your couple of best ones and then use them as your subs, okay? Obviously, with your main team, you want to keep the squads generally small, and you really want to pay attention to, obviously, the wages and see if there's any overpaid players in your team. And what you tend to need to do is ignore this wage budget. This wage budget is not, hey, stick to this and we'll be fine. This wage budget is well, okay, this is what we've had before, so here's the new wage budget. It doesn't mean, if you'll make money if you're under this. This is irrelevant to that. As you can see, we're still pissing money out the wall and stuff like this. So, but obviously you need to cut it down. So what you need to do is almost set your own targets. Maybe set your own max wages to offer. Like in the last couple of seasons, I've gradually replaced the top earners to bring this down from 7-8 grand to 5 grand at my end of the season. Both of these will be leaving as well, so I'm trying to cull it further and further, right? And that's obviously the important thing. Don't get hooked up on also, and this is a mistake I make constantly, is when offering new contract, be careful of things like promotion wage rises, yearly wage rises, because you think you might get a bargain, but then in 4 years' time he's your highest earner because you didn't sort of see those things. But the next thing is, again, staff. Cull two things. If you don't have an under-20s team and you don't have an under-18s team, you don't really need that many under-18s coaches. So get rid of all them. Let their contracts run out. Again, you might not want to fire them because it costs money. Get rid of them. Obviously, we're trying to minimise everything possible, but you still want your own staff, right, for your first team. It's important that you have a decent-ish staff while still trying to... So as you can see, I've got a good, solid staff. There was already an extra coaches here, so I've kept them, but I don't really need some of these things, so I'm keeping it low. But another tip, one of the problems with staff, let's say 1 year you find a good young scout and he wants 500 quid a week, and you're like, great, I'll sign you. When his contract runs out, suddenly they want 2 grand. They always want bonkers pay rises. So the first things first, get young, good staff and sign them for a big, give them a fat contract, right? Give him a 4-year deal on 200 quid a week so he doesn't get asked for that run. If you've got good staff that are running out of contract, what you want to do is just don't offer them new contracts, because most of the staff will stay on a month-to-month contract. And then all you need to do is just keep an eye out. If then one gets poached, then you replace them with a new guy or something like that. If you offer them new contracts, they're going to want a load of money and stuff like this. Now, even if you do all that, that's exactly what I did with this Monza save. I got rid of everybody that I could possibly get rid of, and we are still working at a massive loss. Now, one of the things clubs do to make money is to sell their good young players or sell players for a profit. Not always possible. Some teams, if you're lower league, your highest paid player isn't worth that much money. At the end of the day, a lot of loanies in this team, obviously. Again, loanies, there's quite lax loan rules in the second division in Italy, so we're making use of that because we have to. But let's say if I sold this guy for 250, the actual 250 is not that useful. It makes a very small dent. It doesn't change anything. We don't get much of that money, but the wages is always good. And here's the key to everything. What you want to do is, in your first season or two, let's say you start off over budget, because that's quite a common thing, and you have to reduce the wage budget, right? Get your wage budget a chunk under, or get your sort of current spending a chunk under the wage budget. Let's say here it's like, we're $3,000 under the wage budget. Even if you can get more than that, even better. Because what that allows you to do is become the last 6 months of the season, you're rubbing your hands together and you can search for players that are running out of contract. Wherever you are in the world, there is always good young players that aren't quite making it at the top teams, right? Quite often they're on youth contracts that are running out and they've not been picked up by their parent club. When you're over budget and when you've got no money, you can't touch those players because you cannot offer contracts until you free up some wages. So you have to wait until the season finishes, the window opens, you might sell a couple of players, you then can pick up a couple of players which you might have to purchase, or you might get the dregs, the leftovers of the free transfers. If you're under budget when you go into the January transfer window, that allows you to start scouting players and start scouting these young players. I've got a couple on my Monza save here. I'm not saying these are world beaters, but this is a perfect example. Since I've been at Monza, we've been over the budget. This is the first season where I've been under budget. I can get Dario Bracco, a 19-year-old. He's not going to make it into, doesn't want too much money, 1,000 quid a week or something, signing him for. Not only is he going to be half decent, he can be in my squad. He might be a backup for that first season. These are the guys that have the potential, obviously homegrown as well, to actually go up in value. So you don't sign them don't just sign all the half decent youngsters that you can find in the hope that you will then move them on for a profit, because sometimes you can get lumped with players that you can't get rid of because you're not playing them. You only bought them to sell them, and that will actually cause more of a drain. And obviously the wages mount up. This guy's going to be on 50 grand a year, and selling him for 100 grand in 2 years' time, nothing's happened. You've lost money overall. So sign these young players that will go into the squad. They might not be first team, but this guy will go straight onto the bench and play a few games. And also because he's playing, he'll actually improve. He'll get noticed. His reputation's going to go up. All that sort of good stuff and everything. And then that's where you can make him a bit of money. Like if we sign a couple of, because I'm looking for another guy from Inter as well, Andrea De Rosso. He again is like one of these players we might be able to sell in a season's time for $500,000. That is the only way you dig yourself out of a debt, essentially. To actually get this club to function as a profit-making machine, i.e. fans turn up, we sell shirts, and that outweighs the expenses of our wages, I would probably have to spend 10,000 a week total on wages to make that work. I'm not even sure that would do it. I'm not even sure if we had all our players weren't played. I think just the rest of the expenses of this club would still run at a loss. So to do it, you only really get out of it by selling a player. And to do that, you need to free up enough wages that in January, February, March time, you can scout these youngsters that aren't going to make it, sign a couple for the squad, and then in a season or two, hopefully get rid and hopefully sort of make a profit on them. Like I always like to improve my facilities and work on the youth facilities and stuff like that. But if you think of the X amount of million or whatever it would cost to upgrade these youth facilities and the youth intakes and stuff, just for the slight chance of getting a better youth player, like in generally speaking, unless you're doing a really long-term save with one club, that's not worth it. Forget that. Just focus entirely on this wage structure to give yourself a bit of breathing space so you can then sign the kids before all of the good ones have gone and you have to wait until the transfer window. I think that's my main tips. I think I've covered most of the stuff there. Hope you found that useful or enjoyable or interesting or whatever. Like I said, we're still in debt, but we're getting there. We're getting there. This was a lot worse. I know it looks bad now. This was a lot worse when I took over. If you are interested in this save, it's my journeyman save. We're in 60 episodes in. Go join it. It's a lot of fun. This team has been the most fun. I find the most enjoyment on Football Manager with teams like this, that you're spinning plates to keep this team afloat and working, still achieving stuff in the league whilst cutting the budget by half. I love that stuff. That's my bread and butter because I love business and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you found this video useful, please do hit the like button. Feel free to share it and all that good stuff. Let me know if you've got any more tips. Please do leave them in the comments for anybody else that's struggling. You can't do anything with regards to takeovers. There's nothing you can do about that. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But don't rely on it. Don't be at a team in the hope that they will get taken over, because it's just kind of pretty much a random event. But there you go. Little video. Hope you found it useful. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.